Hello and welcome back to the Slaughter, everybody. Welcome back to Killing Floor 3, where today I'm going to be going over 10 tips to help you get better at Killing Floor 3. Some of these are meant for multiplayer, and some of them won't really work in solo. Anyway, coming in at number 10, you can still actually do quite a lot of things when you're rezzing. So in Killing Floor 3, even when you're rezzing a down teammate, you can actively still shoot enemies, you can guard, you can potentially even parry, you can heal yourself, you can use your gadget. You might be able to use your ult depending on which class you're playing. You can't do this if it's like one that takes priority over everything else, like Medic's ult where you put down your big AoE heal, and same thing with Firebug where you explode out. However, those can be really useful if you're trying to res a teammate because they almost always interrupt whatever enemy is trying to kill them. So if they have a unique animation like the Scrake or any of the bosses, you can potentially knock them back with that and then still be able to res teammates. Our second tip is that you can change your starting gear. Now this kind of goes for everything depending on your total operational budget, but even at the very start you can actually swap out your gadget for whatever other gadget you would like. This is especially useful in solo if you have a gadget that may not be the strongest, or you might want to take advantage of something like Engineer's multi-tool to open up things or start up turrets. That can be really useful for those waves even in solo. In multiplayer this can still be really good. You don't necessarily want everybody with like the multi-tool because otherwise you kind of unlock and get everything up within the first round, and then everybody's still kind of missing stuff. Same thing goes with like you don't really need everybody to have like medic bags right away. Kind of a mix of stuff, usually medic bags, ammo bags, and the multi-tool I found to be the most useful overall. Bear traps are pretty useful too at certain points, maybe not on the first wave though, usually on later waves to stun lock things like Scrakes and Flesh Pounds. Our third tip is that whenever you upgrade your armor, it resets the total amount of armor that you have. So if you're planning on doing that, then make sure you do that before you like autofill or before you start buying stuff within the trader. This will just allow you to jump up to the next level of armor, which every level of armor actually gives you more and more resistances. The first level is only like 5% resistance towards stuff, the second level is 20%, and the third level I believe is 40% resistance towards everything. You will need to buy that armor back if you die during the rounds and you interact with the trader pod later. However, upgrading your armor can be really useful that way because you can potentially even get more value from this, and then you'd still be able to fill out the rest of whatever you needed. Our fourth tip is that you can manually reset turrets. So initially you need to have the multi-tool to unlock the turret so that it can actually shoot enemies. This will shoot enemies up to a certain point. I believe this is based on the amount of damage that the turret does or how long it's been active. It will eventually go inactive. You don't need another multi-tool to set up that turret though. You can just walk up to it and start. If you look at the turrets from a distance as well, so long as you're not super far away from them, they will also tell you what cooldown they're on and how this is ticking down. I believe this is 240 seconds at max when it goes on cooldown. It could be 300 seconds, I actually don't fully remember that. But you can actually wait these out a little bit in between rounds during the trader because that is a guaranteed amount of time. And if you skip that, it doesn't actually speed up the turret process at all. It's still the same cooldown regardless. Our fifth tip is that off-perk weapons can sometimes be the best weapons. It's kind of crazy how good off-perk weapons are in Killing Floor 3, if you want to go for them, because there are some that really stand out. The main one would be the Vulcan as of right now. This is Firebug's tier 4, and it is insanely strong at the moment, and it's insanely strong on everything. It's probably strongest on Firebug, but anybody can buy these weapons if you would like. And if you want to skip to a weapon, especially if your team is lacking in like big Zed killing power, then maybe going with the Vulcan is really good. Medic weapons are always solid as an off-perk choice simply because you can heal up with them and that's going to be good for the team regardless. Same thing goes with like the kunai from Ninja. The kunai are probably one of the best melee weapons in the game. Even though they can't parry, they can still block and give you all the advantages that melee weapons do, so that's pretty good. And like the grenade launcher from Engineer, if you've built your own, or if you happen to find one with either fire grenades or ice grenades, or even the enfeebling grenades, they can actually be really good, especially for the crowd control. The ice ones in particular are really nice if you keep getting constantly overwhelmed by stuff. Tip number 6, make sure to make your own custom weapons. That way you can actually start out with them so you can get more money. This is going to be most relevant to the tier 1 and tier 2 weapons, and starting out with a maxed out tier 1 weapon that costs quite a lot of your budget is very useful. Same thing kind of goes with your secondary weapon, whatever that might be, because if you do manage to spend all of your money on this, then you can trade it away immediately for something, or you don't necessarily need to pay that amount of dosh to actually get your weapon that you actually want to use. So I would recommend that you max out starting weapons. You're going to have to do this incrementally as you kind of get more parts for the weapons and more parts in general to actually build the attachments for your weapons, because you don't start out with like maxed out operational budget. You start out with so much of it and then you have to build more towards it. Tier 2 weapons is going to be a little bit more difficult to do because you're not going to be able to put everything on your weapon to max it out. That being said, you could have multiple modded out weapons, so you could have your tier 2 with the max amount of money and then just go to that rather than just staying with your tier 1. and then you could potentially go into a different tier 2 that you also have modded out. Our next tip is grab the medic pistol. This one's really useful in multiplayer. It's not really going to be all that good in solo, and you can actually swap off your secondary to any of the other classes' secondaries whenever you'd like, which means I usually swap off the medic pistol, at least if I'm thinking about it, with medic when I'm playing them solo. So the medic pistol has a ton of bullets in it, which is very useful for actually just shooting up smaller Zeds, and on top of that, you can also just use the regular bullets to clear up machines. The major advantage of the medic pistol, though, is that it does have infinite healing darts. It only gets 3 of these at a time, but even so, just being able to swap this off, heal teammates, and then swap back to your primary weapon is still very worthwhile, so it's a very good secondary to have. Our next tip is that melee weapons actually get you bonus movement speed, as well as they also have the ability to block and sometimes parry. Now this can be really useful if you're going off-perk. Again, if you're going to go with like Ninja's kunai, that's probably the best option if you want to go off-perk and a melee weapon, because things like the sword are okay in terms of price, but you're probably not really going to want to be using it. It's more just there for like blocking and parrying, which is an okay strategy. You could do that in Killing Floor 2, especially against like King Fleshpound, but you don't really need to do that so much in Killing Floor 3, I found, and the kunai can still block, they just can't parry. They are an infinite weapon too, where you can just keep tossing these out and then go and pick up your knives. Knives do pretty good damage when thrown. They also do quite a bit of damage when you're actually attacking with them, and that's really good too. You can't really run out of the knives because you at least always have the 2 to stab with. They're also incredibly powerful in Zed time, so even if you're not going with Ninja, where they are insanely fast, they're still really fast with all the other classes too. And even if you don't want to invest in the kunai, switching to your knife can be really useful for actually running around faster. Think of this like the CSGO meme of switching to your knife makes you run faster for whatever reason, as well as if you are getting chased down by like Fleshpounds or Scrags, you have a chance to actually block or parry those hits whenever they actually swing at you, which can give you more time to actually heal up or run away, resupply, or run to teammates. Our next tip is that you can trade Dash of the Trader now. You couldn't really do that in Killing Floor 2. You had to actually manually toss out all of your Dash to your teammates, which was a little bit annoying. Although you can still do that in Killing Floor 3. But now you can actually just go into the trading pod, click on whoever you want to give Dash to, and move the slider over, and then you can send that amount of Dash to them. You can split this up amongst teammates, or you can just send it all to one person, and it will be sent to them regardless of where they're at. So even if they haven't got to the trading pod yet, they'll still get the money. Really useful for teammates that get ahead, especially if you're playing like Ninja, because I found that with Ninja, whenever I was playing on Hell on Earth with teammates, usually I maxed out my build around like rounds 2 or 3. I didn't really need anything else. Like I had my kunai, I had my sword, and I had maxed out armor, and that was pretty much all I needed. If I wanted to go for more stuff, I could, but it's really useful if you have a teammate on the team who's just pumping all the money to one person to make them stronger, or to multiple people to make them stronger or just tankier. And our 10th tip is that you get healed to full health whenever you interact with the trading pod, at least for the first time. If you manage to, let's say, get to the trader pod, then run up a bunch of stairs, jump off of a building, and break your legs, then you go and interact with the pod again, it's not going to heal you. You're going to have teammates heal you up. But this is really important if you main medic, because medic is really good at keeping people alive, but you only have a limited amount of healing darts in this, except for with the medic pistol, to where you don't want to be using out all of these, because you're going to need to either buy them back, and it's not really going to be worth the amount of cash, or it's just kind of unnecessary. The teammates are already going to get healed anyway. The one exception for this is the medic pistol, because you might as well always have the medic pistol out healing people whenever it gets charged up, because you're going to be getting money back. And generating free money is always a good thing. And those are 10 tips for Killing Floor 3. If you have any other tips, feel free to lay them down in the comments below. I didn't want to have these be any like super basic tips of, aim for the head or try to group up in a space where you can kind of rotate. I feel like most people kind of fundamentally understand that, or will understand it really quickly when playing. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.